All right, so this will be lesson 2 of 3 in our little trig mini unit. This is like there's almost nothing to this lesson, but there are a couple things that are going to help us with 10.3, which is the most information packed lesson and probably the one that has the most carry forward to pre-calc and beyond. All right, so this is more of a supporting lesson than like there's a whole lot to it kind of lesson. Okay, so all about angles of rotation, and one thing that we need to carry forward is that what's the difference between a positive angle measure and a negative angle measure? It might be a little counterintuitive, but counterclockwise is going to be positive, and clockwise would be negative. So just some examples of what that looks like. So the initial side is always, if we're thinking about an x and a y axis, it's always the positive part of the x-axis is the initial side. That's where you start from. And so a positive angle would go, counterclockwise from there, right? So that's a positive angle. And then a negative angle, so this is an example of negative 145, goes to the left or clockwise. All right, so so that's something to remember. And then these coterminal angles, I honestly don't really know how this information is super helpful, but we'll go through how to find coterminal angles anyways. But basically, coterminal angles, they either are the exact same angle or they add up to 360 with the given angle. Okay, so I'll show you what I mean there. Well, it says this is how you find the coterminal. You either add 360 or you subtract 360. So they give an example along with a visual representation for 65. But let's go ahead and find a couple ourselves. All right, so actually before we find some coterminal angles, let's go ahead and draw a couple of angles here. Okay, so 150 degrees is going to be a positive angle, so we're going to go from our starting point here, counterclockwise, so to the left. From 0 to 90 would be here, right? And then if I went the rest of the way to the next one, that would be to 180. So I'm gonna go a little bit over halfway between 90 and 180. So say like right there. So that's obviously not going to be exact, but pretty close to a 150 degree angle. And then a negative angle, right? Negative 330. So probably the easiest way to think about a negative 330 would be kind of what we call a reference angle, which we'll get to later, right? So negative 330 would be almost, this would be negative 360 all the way around that way. All right, so it's going to be almost all the way around, just 30 degrees short, right? So really we're talking about it's going to look almost the same as a positive or sorry, it's going to just be, I wasn't saying that correctly, but yeah, it's just going to be 30 degrees short of a full rotation. Okay, so like almost all the way around, but just 30 degrees short. Okay, so you want that angle right there to be about 30 degrees would be your thought process. Okay. So it ends up looking a little bit like Pac-Man. Anybody have any questions about how to draw those? All right, so now getting to these coterminals. So basically, coterminal angles to that would be this, okay? So so one of your coterminal angles would go, I wouldn't draw this, just kind of this is just kind of a visual for what we're finding in the next, for 3, 4, and 5. So one of your coterminal angles would go like all the way around and back again. All right, and then the other one is just going to be from this way. All right, so that's going to be the two things we're finding when we find our coterminal angles. And again, I'm not sure outside of just being directly asked to find a coterminal angle when you would use that information, but we'll know how to find it anyways. All right, so remember from up above it says to find the two coterminal angles, you just add 360 and subtract 360. So for 145, we'd go 145 plus 360 and 145 minus 360. So that's going to be 505 and negative 215 degrees. 505 and negative 215. All right, so you guys go ahead and finish up on 4 and 5, and then we will we'll move ahead. I love seeing Kansas get smoked last night. That was nice. The West Coast is just kind of dominating. What's up with that? I didn't even know they knew. I didn't even know they knew what a basketball was. Well, Colorado lost, and they finally lost, and I thought they were really strong looking, but yeah, the Big Ten kind of flopped. They still got Michigan though. They're strong. All right, so for negative 130, let's see. Ernst, can you give me my two coterminal angles? Uh-huh. And negative 490, those are correct. Very good. And how about Madison S for number 5? Good. All right, those are your pair. So one thing you notice is that always with these in the pair, one's positive, one's negative, right? That's a thing that that we can take away there. Okay, which is always going to be true. All right. Now, I think probably another thing besides the positive and negative direction that would probably be your other big takeaway would be this reference angle. We end up being able to use that information in 10.3, which, like I said, is pretty. It's got a lot there. So just kind of on a definitional level. A reference angle, basically takes our angle and it's the rest of the way, to the x-axis. All right. So and it's always going to be an acute angle, so less than 90, and it's always going to be positive. Okay. Always measured as a positive angle. All right, so it kind of gives us how we can find them in the first quadrant, second quadrant, third quadrant, fourth quadrant. But I think it's probably easiest just to be able to see it. Okay, so let's look at a couple together. So for a given angle, 130 degrees, which is, from here to here, what's its reference angle? So we're finding the measure, that angle measure right there that's in green. Basically we know that 130 plus that is going to equal 180, right? So that would be 180 minus 130 to be 50. All right, and then for a 225 degree angle, we are looking to find. Notice we don't go all the way here, right? Because that wouldn't be an acute angle. That would be over 90. So it's not always necessarily in that same direction. Okay, even though we measure it as a positive angle. All right, trying to erase that. So we're actually measuring this angle right here. So how far past 180 is 225 is what we're asking. So that would be 225 take away 180. So that'd be 45 degrees. All right. So you guys try to find the measures of 6, 7, and 8. I'll try to point out exactly what it is that you're finding. So for number 6, it was a little bit confusing if you try to use those rules up there, but just try to state what the measure of that green angle would be. On number 7, you're trying to find the measure of that angle, and on number 8, it's not marked, but you're trying to find the measure of that angle. Okay. So go ahead and take a minute or so, try to do that, and then we will discuss. See if you have any questions. And that's really about it. Like I told you, this is a pretty light lesson. But it has a couple things that we'll reference in 10.3. Reference angles, positive versus negative angles, stuff like that. All right, so let's make sure we have it, and then we'll see if anybody has any questions. Chase, were you able to get anywhere on number 6 there? So it's always going to be positive, but it is 60. Okay, I see why you would call it negative 60, but you can kind of think of it in your mind as we're measuring from the x-axis, right? So, but 60 is kind of the key there. Remember, just so for reference angles, always positive, always acute. All right, so those are kind of the two things. Wilson, what about number 7? 45 is correct. And again, so notice the change there, right? So on this one, again, just to make it positive, your thought process would be, okay, we're going in that direction. All right. Or sorry, I did that wrong. Would be going in the other direction. Sorry about that. And then number 8, Mitch, what'd you get for number 8? 70 degrees. Very good. Okay. So that's it. Does anybody have any questions or anything like that? All right. So I'll go ahead and push out 10.2 to you guys. So you'll have 10.1, which I would guess that maybe not many people started, and 10.2. You can ask questions if necessary. There may be one or two where I tell you, let's wait till after 10.3 and then we'll talk about that one because it's kind of a mixed bag. But for the most part, just ask and if you need to. Also, in class, guys, feel free to work together. I'm going to go ahead and stop the recording now.